How's everybody doing today? I see Alex Mayer is here driving in his car, so he doesn't have his video on. And we have other people today too. Very cool, very cool. How's it going? Okay, so when I run these Power Huddles, I love interaction and I love questions and I love ideas. I think we learn and grow more. It's we all jump in and ask the questions, right? And that way we can grow and we can be better together. So by all means, interrupt me. I have no problem with that. So I am Jennifer Stiles. I am located in Denver, Colorado. And, I was approached this week with about a million different topics that, a million different people wanted to talk about regarding everything from systems to contracts questions and even the way people are handling, buyer agency this week. So I'm going to open it up. If I don't hear from anybody, we can talk about systems, but I do, because I'm, working on that with KMO right now. So I know that I believe Coral sent me a question this week, and I would love to kind of open it up today and just see what everybody's having an issue with in the market. See if maybe I know a solution for you, and maybe we can work this out together. So, Coral, are you on the call? Unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm on the call. Hi.
Hey, Coral. What's up?
Just busy, first thing in the morning.
Yeah. So you sent me a question earlier this week. Can you clarify what the question was?
So with all the changes and everything and having to negotiate for our buyers to pay us and finding out what the sellers are willing to offer, what's the best way to find that out before we're negotiating it and writing in a contract?
Okay, so there's some other agents on this call that I would love to bring into this question. Bring into this answer. But I'm going to tell you the way I do it is I'm not going to worry about it. Only thing I'm going to worry about is on the listing side. I'm more listing heavy than I am buyer heavy. But when I take out buyers, I'm not even worried about it anymore. I just am going to put it into my offer. I think that, we as the agents have what is called a fiduciary responsibility to our sellers. So if I'm the seller's agent, right, and I am listing a house, I am not, now everybody can do it their own way, right? I'm not saying that another way is wrong. Oh, look, it puts a hand up every time I do this. Okay, sorry. Sort of. But, when I'm sitting down at a listing appointment, I'm having the conversation that really nothing has changed and everything has changed, right? So I am just warning them, hey guys, yeah, you're most likely going to be doing it the same way that we've always done it, most likely going to have a co-op. But the difference here, especially in Colorado, is that we are not putting it in the MLS for the agents to see. Your question, Coral, comes from, as the buyer's agent, how do you know what you're getting paid? I say don't worry about it, right? So our contracts in Colorado are a little bit different than everybody else's in the country, right? But in our contracts, we have in the agency and in the offers now, who is going to pay what? So we are asking the seller to pay the commission. We are asking the buyers to pay. We get split it up. We could say the seller to pay X amount and the buyer to pay X amount. So there's a couple different options in there. And then when you send that offer off, because now it's in the contract, right? When you send that offer off, then the seller can respond to you, right? Does that make sense?
Totally. Is it a good idea to call the listing agent? So you're saying as a listing agent, if I was to call you with a buyer and ask you if your seller is offering any concessions for the buyer's fees, you probably wouldn't tell me.
Well, you know me. And many agents around here do know me, and you know how I answer things. So, my answer would probably be pretty generic, and it would probably be, you know what? I had the conversation with the seller. I don't know what they're going to do until you write it up the way you're supposed to.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Now, but on the flip side of that, as a listing agent, what are you doing to protect yourself? And I think this is a really big discussion that probably needs to be having, everybody needs to be having. So when I'm taking listings now, I don't know if anybody's heard me talk about this in the past. Does anybody know what I'm doing in my additional provisions? And a lot of agents have done this forever, right? But now that we have the compensation, commission, whatever it is up in the air, sometimes when we're sitting with our clients and they tell us one thing, and then like 2 weeks later, have you ever had a client say, "Oh, I changed my mind," right? Or, "I don't want to do that anymore," right? Has anybody on this call ever had that? Because I sure have. And so what I'm doing is when we're taking our listing agreements, I'm sitting down and I'm saying, okay, guys, now we're not putting in the co-op into our listing agreement, but we are adding marketing fees, right? So let's say that we get offers and you decide not to pay the compensation, so then you have an unsellable listing. And so my marketing fee, if it expires, if it falls away, you will owe me the money for the marketing fee. Sorry. I'm putting that into my listing stuff now because I have been through a market. Let's talk about like 2021, I think it was 2021 when the interest rates went up from like 4% to 7.5%, and I had 10 listings, right? And shame on me, I didn't have a marketing fee rider in there. So how much does it cost everybody to list a property? How much do your photos cost? How much do your tours cost? How much does all of it cost? For me, how much money do you spend on Facebook ads or social media ads to get the property out into the world? Do you put them in magazines? Do you mail out most postcards, right? We all do because that's what gets us more business, right? But if you take a listing and it becomes unsellable because a seller just refuses to compensate or come down on their price, right? Then who's stuck with 10 listings at $2,000 a piece? You are. So I would say protect yourself and, of course, go to your managing broker in your state to make sure that you are compliant with what you can and cannot do, right? But that's one thing. Some of the agents out there are actually putting sign riders on, or they're putting a percent on a keychain. I am not, and my team will not. And does anybody out there have a question why I wouldn't do that? Do I need to explain it? I think Debbie might be asking, or you are. Hi.
Hi.
What's your question?
Why are you not putting?
Why am I not putting it there? Okay, so you're a seller, right? And my fiduciary responsibility is my job to do what? Get you the most amount of money in the least amount of time, right?
Correct.
So if I put, I don't know, 3% or 5% or whatever on the sign or on the key, right? Did I just give money away?
Yeah, you're negotiating without thinking about the fact that maybe that.
Yeah. And so what you're doing is you're setting yourself up,
Yeah.
and you're setting the industry up for another lawsuit.
Yes.
So stop the practice. Just stop, right? Because we're already under fire enough. There's no reason for us to give more money away, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. A buyer's agent is supposed to already have the agreement that their buyer is saying,
Yeah.
You're going to get paid by the seller, or I'm going to pay you, or whatever.
Mhm.
And a lot of buyer's agents are actually signing them at a lower percentage,
Yeah.
or at, let's say they signed it at 2.8 or 2.5 or 2. It doesn't even matter what they signed it at.
Yeah.
And you have 3% on the side. What do you think is going to happen to that exclusive buyer's agency? It's going to get deleted, and a new buyer's agency is going to get made, right? Because they're all digital now, and it's going to be for 3%.
And you gave away your seller's money without actually having that conversation.
Right.
Got it.
And though that's not ethical and it's not supposed to happen, we all know that it will happen, right?
Yeah. True.
So, yeah, no, I don't do that.
As long as I was curious. Yeah.
So no, we just leave it to have it negotiated in the offer. And I think it's got to keep our industry, I was totally against it. Just so you guys know, I have a personal issue with not having clear cooperation out anymore, but I totally get where it's going. And now I've been on a few listing appointments now, and seems like I'm listing at a higher percent, and like clients are happier. So I was very resistant to it at the beginning, just like everyone else. But now that I've taken back a few more listings in the last few weeks, I'm not having an issue with it. Alex, I know you're driving, but do you have anything to say on the subject? Because I know you're a top producer, and really love to hear what your opinions are on any of the stuff that we've touched about.
Yeah, so I obviously hit it from both the buyer and the seller standpoint, like everybody should be. In my market right now, we're actually in a little bit of a slowdown pretty much since the week after the 4th of July. And I think that's happened around a lot of markets right now. But I actually was just visiting with the Southeast Minnesota Association of Realtors this morning. I went in the office, had a cup of coffee with him, and I told him, I'm like, we're in a slowdown. He's like, yeah, that's the rumor. And I showed him that we have just as many price reductions as we have new listings coming onto the market right now. And so first thing I always am having conversations with my sellers right now is about setting proper expectations about where the market is at. And, sometimes you'll get those old school sellers that, want you to do old school strategies, and they don't really fully understand the digital marketing that we do. So you really have to set proper expectations today, because this is not a market for agents that were just getting lucky with a really fast market. This is something that you're going to have to work more to sell properties. Because I'm going on more listing appointments right now. I'm always been more buy side, but on my listing appointments, I just have the conversation. I'm 3.5%. I can talk about commissions. I can't tell you to do your percent, but I tell them that I'm 3.5%. And we don't know what the buyer's agent's broker's co-op is going to be. I'm going to assume 3 different numbers. Could be 3, could be 2.5, could be $5,000. We simply don't know what that answer is going to be until we actually get the offer from the buyer's agent. And just so you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, buyer's agents work very hard. We need buyer's agents. And honestly, the only people who are bringing money to the closing table when you are selling your house is the buyer, right? You as a seller have the asset, and at closing, you're the one who's divvying up the money, but the buyer is the one who has the money, right? And they hired their agent. Whether they want, essentially, if they include it in the purchase price, they're really just including it in the finance, right? The only number that matters to you at the end of the day is your net sales price, and beyond that, the estimate of proceeds. So when I had a for sale by owner that I worked with, I was representing the buyer over the course of this last weekend, and they told me point blank, like, we are not going to cover any buyer broker fees. And well, those sellers now love me. We got a deal under contract, but there are about 80%.
But did they pay?
So we did it I did it in a smart way. What I did is I asked my buyers if they could pay their own closing costs, which commonly are 3% in my market. And they said, yes. I'm like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to pay my 3% buyer broker co-op. We're going to ask them for 3% in seller's contribution. And that way they can go around and they can say that they won and they didn't pay the broker fees. And they were like, yeah, we like that. It's the same number. It's exactly a wash. And my buyers got the house. The sellers are ecstatic. They get to go out and tell the world that they didn't pay buyer broker fees. Whatever. I got fully paid. And really, the only thing I did is I changed the name from commission to closing costs. Right, it's the exact same thing. So that conversation happened, and then so with the sellers, though, I always tell them the only one bringing money to the closing table is the buyer. And we don't know what that commission is going to be. I have my assumptions at what it's going to be. I'm 3.5. It used to be that I paid out 3. I wouldn't be surprised if that stays the norm, especially as we're entering into a slowdown right now and buyer agents have more power than what they did in 2020, 2021. Good professional agents are going to get paid and they're worth it.
Good, 100%.
What's going to happen, though? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, honey. I don't know if you guys are picking up on some of the little nuances and the differences of the markets, right? He's talking certain numbers, right? And those numbers don't exist in Colorado. You can ask them, but you're probably very rare to get those numbers here. And I love that we have conversations about different nuances and the way that we're doing things differently. Alex, yes, we were in the same slump. And that interest rates came down significantly last Friday. And the predictions are, so I know that I'm friends with a lot of lenders, and I know that a lot of companies around here, especially, have started bringing back on their loan officers because they're expecting a pretty significant refi boom. Mm-hmm. And so I am starting, all of my listings, I only have one listing, and it's like a pain in my rear that is still available, and I'm literally listing 3 or 4 more this week, and I think they're all going to be gone pretty quickly because the interest rates came down and the buyers are flooding back in. Does anybody else feel that? Because that's what's happening here in Denver.
I think that's what's going to happen, but I don't know. I have a tattoo, a crystal ball on my left forearm, and I always tell people this thing doesn't work. So, I don't really know what's going to happen. I just, focus on what I can control.
I love it. You know what? I've always wanted to tattoo. I've never decided on one that I want, but I love that idea.
I'm getting tattooed here in an hour, actually. So I'm going to spend 5 hours in a chair. But I did want to talk about the buy side thing, just because I think that would be helpful for people. I'm mostly buy side. At my first brokerage, we charged about 0.5% more than what was common in our market for buyer broker co-op, and we would just have the seller pay it, increase the closing cost by 0.5%, or the buyer would pay it out of pocket. So I'm used to having these conversations with buyers about making sure that I get paid. And there are situations in my market. I call it a commission deficiency because I'm mean to the other agent when they offer less. When I get in there, I'm like, my buyer will cover the deficiency, or hey, there's a 0.3% deficiency that we're asking your seller to pay in the buyer broker co-op, so that they can't go out there and be like, oh, he's greedy. It's like, no, you offered less than what is common. But in general, with the new, we're not, that's going to go away now, right? So I have the conversation with every listing agent that I make an offer on, and I don't even look at their buyer broker co-op anymore, because in my state of Minnesota, the broker for EXP had us actually cross out the line that say the compensation that we're asking as part of the purchase agreement is in addition to what is being offered by the listing brokerage, because we are not allowing broker to broker at all. So you can't receive compensation from the listing broker in the state of Minnesota with my company. So what we do is we actually just cross out that line, and I just put in 3%. I had a listing I made an offer on Monday and got it under contract yesterday, and he was paying out 2.5. And I just wrote it in there at 3, and he's like, well, on the MLS, we have it at 2.5. I'm like, and I get it, and everybody runs their business their way. I'm 3%. And have it in the contract. And just so you know, you're going to need to get an amendment from your broker, your managing broker, reducing your commission on the listing agreement, and then just understanding you're getting paid what you get paid, and then we are getting paid what we get paid from the seller at closing too. So I don't even look at the commissions anymore. It does kind of put the power back in the control of us as buyers agents, because we are not at the mercy of the listing agent to tell us what we are worth.
Correct.
when I'm meeting with sellers, I tell them like, we will probably pay a buyer's agent though, like understand like that's what's going to happen. And we don't know what that number is going to be.
Right. I love this perspective. And I love that we can jump on these calls and we can talk to people all over the country that have different tactics and different ways of doing things. I think it's just an amazing call. Thank you so much, Alex, for your input there. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I wrote on a quasi-commercial deal. It was an investment property, a quadplex the other day. And they had the co-op still was in the MLS. Most of our MLS does not have the co-op listed anymore, but the older listings do. And so it was, I want to say it was 2.5. And I literally wrote in, the bottom, because our contracts have not updated our system yet, totally. I put in what the compensation was going to be. Buyer request, buyer's agent, compensation to be, and then I wrote it in. And I'm waiting for the response, but I think, the mentality is already shifted here in Denver, and you just ask for what you're worth. And I don't think that buyers really are going to fight you on that. Most of my buyers don't fight me on anything, right? And if they do I really want to work with them because I'm learning at my very old age that I don't really want to work with everyone. I was listening to Tony Robbins it wasn't Tony Robbins. It was one of the other coaches out in the world the other day, and it just came across my feed, and he was talking about how a brand new agent, and she went out on a listing presentation. Was going to go on a listing presentation, so she called him and she said, "Oh, I've never done this before. What should I rate the commission in the fee?" And he said something like 8%. And she goes, 8%? And he goes, yeah, just write it in 8% and go. So she goes to the listing appointment and she calls him back the next afternoon and she goes, hey, I got the listing. I'm so excited I got the listing. And he goes, yeah, what did you get it at? And she said 8%. That's what she told me to write it in at. So the point is, and some of us older people in the industry, we've been beat up and spit out so many times that you become gun shy of, the conversation. Don't do that because you're going to have these, young people in here that don't know any better. I mean, one of the most fun years of my career was my very first year in business because I didn't know any better. I just went out and did the thing, right? So wake up every day and act like, of course, keep your knowledge in there, but be fearless and go out and do your job and don't worry about what is or what could, right? Go out and be the 8% girl for our first listing. Go and do it, right? I'm tripping over my words this morning. Not enough caffeine. Anybody else have any questions? I was going to do systems today and talk about automations and how AI, maybe I'll cover that next week. But what I'm finding out in the world is that a lot of people are looking at AI to solve problems that they don't have, right? Instead of just leaning into AI to enhance what you currently have. So maybe we can start about that next week, or some part of systems. I'm really diving into my CRM recently and I'm benefiting by it so much. I'm getting so much interaction with my database. My database is huge. I have 5,600 people in it. I have, cold leads, I have past clients, all of this. And so my team and I have been working really hard to improve our communications, our follow-up, our follow-through. So I think, that's going to be a great subject possibly next week. So anybody have any questions for me? Coral, did we answer your question, or do you have anything else that you had a question about? Maybe something I've helped you with. Coral. She must be on a phone call. Okay, well, anybody else? Anything.
Oh, I just wanted to say that Alex was super helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Little different than Colorado. And you answered all my questions and have me thinking about that 8%.
Why not? Right? Why not? We're worth it. So, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to just cut it 5 minutes short. I think that you guys got a lot from us today. So if there's anything else that you need, give me a call. My name is Jennifer Spells. I'm in Denver, Colorado. Easily found online. So just reach out to me. I'll answer anything. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love your energy. Very nice.
Thank you, Alex.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.